So, hey there, friends. I wanted to do another video, and I wanted to talk about the value of quiet times, or what I would call tarot-wise as sort of fallow times. Um, and what I mean by that are the times when maybe our interest is a little dimmer than normal, or we don't feel like we're making the progress that we should be making, or it seems like there's nothing new to learn. Those times where we're just sort of feeling like um, we've plateaued or we're just not as into it as we were before. And I bring this up in part because I have, for the last couple of weeks, sort of felt like I've exhausted almost everything I have to say. Um, uh, that isn't or that hasn't already been said. And I wanted to talk about that actual phenomenon because I think it's valuable. I think it's valuable for a couple of reasons. I think it's valuable to think about and talk about because I think that in those periods where we go into I'm trying to choose my words carefully because I want this to make sense, but there are times where as anything that we are interested in doing or anything that we're good at, there are going to be times where the interest will wane or the doing of it will feel like a chore, or it feels like a quieter time. And the magic or the effectiveness of what we love goes away, or it seems to have gone away. And this has happened to me in various degrees over the years. It's happened in some cases for a few years, where like my relationship with tarot or divination in general goes dormant. And it's one of the few things in life that I'm really passionate about where that happens. But the few things in life that I'm passionate about, it is something that does happen. I have felt that way in my writing sometimes too, where no matter how much I want to be doing it, or how much I wish my interest in it were hotter, it it's just not there. You know what I mean? I'll sit at the screen and just type or not type and feel like everything that I've had to say has been said, or that I can't get better than what I've done. Um, and I think that it's cyclical to a degree. I find that as the weather heats up, particularly sort of late summer into early fall, my ability to sort of be creative wanes dramatically. And I don't know if it's because of the heat, because I do not respond well to heat, or if it's for some other reason. I don't know. But I can, I rely pretty consistently on the fact that when sort of August, September, October comes around, I have a hard time generating any creativity. I haven't found that cycle is as cyclical when it comes to things like tarot, but I find that they will erupt suddenly, and I find myself frustrated in both cases. You know what I mean? When it comes to writing, I start to feel like, oh, what if I can never, like, oh shit, I lost that ability. When it comes to tarot, Um, I start to doubt that it ever worked and that I was ever good at it, and that it had any value. I'm not at that point now. At this point, I just sort of feel like I don't have a lot to add to the conversation, which I don't like feeling that way, because I like being part of the conversation. But I guess this is part of the conversation. So that's kind of a long roundabout way of sort of talking about a feeling that I think is natural and that happens. And I think that this can happen. I think it's more likely to happen if you are really passionate about something. Like, the more passionate you are about something, the more likely you are to want to dive into it, completely and wholeheartedly, and like consume everything there is to consume, and just put out everything there is to put out. And we can burn out by trying to do too much. I've often talked about this to the folks that report to me at work. because the people who are most passionate about their jobs are the people, you know, I want to keep happy and I want them to be happy. They're the people I always worry about the most, though, because they are the least likely to take a vacation day. They're the least likely to notice when they're starting to feel burned out. And they're the most likely to start beating themselves up that there's something wrong with them when they start to feel burned out. And what I always tell them is, like, if you love what you do, take that vacation day. Like, take a fucking vacation day. You know, like, take a day off, relax, treat yourself well, care for that part of you that loves what you do, and meet out the energy, in a steady stream. Don't become a volcano and like erupt all your energy out into the world and then find that you don't have anything left to give, because energy, and passion, anything, is like, um it's like, I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, it's like a body of water. It's like a dammed up, lake, say, you know. So there's a lake at the top of a mountain. This is making me think of the Johnstown flood, but not a very pleasant memory. But so there's like a lake at the top of the mountain, and it's been dammed up, and a trickle comes out. You know, the dam controls the amount of energy that trickles down the mountain, the amount of water that trickles down the mountain. If the water rushes out more quickly, the dam starts to lose, or the lake starts to lose its level. Like, the water level starts to go down. But if it's raining enough, then it can handle the loss of water, you know. And in fact, it might be good to let more water out of the dam because the lake could flood. But if it's not raining, or if the water is rushing out of the lake through the dam more quickly than the rain can replenish that lake, then the lake is going to run dry. So enthusiasm for something, passion for something, you know, the energy that we put into anything is finite in a way, and it's like that lake, and it's like that trickle coming out of the dam. And there can be times where we put everything, you know, we exhaust all our energy. We let all of that water run out of the dam too quickly, and we then need time to replenish the lake. You know, we need time to let the water build up in the lake again, because there's nothing trickling out, because there's nothing left. Um, you know, it's like an electrical current, or any other kind of energy, or it's like your bank account. You know, if you spend money more quickly than you're putting into your account, then you're going to find out that you're overdrawn, and you can't spend anymore. In fact, spending more will do damage to you. So the whole idea here is that, it's an ideal situation if we can measure out our enthusiasm and measure out our passion for something, and the energy that we put into it, so that we don't drain the lake, or we don't drain the bank account, you know, so that energy, money, water is going into the lake, bank account, you know, whatever, at a rate that, equals what's coming out, so that the reservoir stays full. Um, but there are a couple things that go on. One, it's not always possible to do that, because it's hard to control enthusiasm, like it's hard to control a dammed up lake. Two, we don't always think of it that way. And three, regardless of how thoughtful we are about, measuring out the output of energy or enthusiasm into something, like the water, there are going to be dry times. There are going to be times where, you know, it just doesn't rain for a while, and you can shut the dam off completely, but the water in the lake is still going to evaporate. Um, or your bank account, you know what I mean? So, you know, you can spend and spend and spend, and then you've got nothing left, and nothing's going to happen until you know, get another paycheck, or until you take another job. So this sort of odd metaphor, is is leading to a place, of thinking about those drought times, or those fallow periods, or the times where the bank account is empty. Like the tarot bank account is empty, the emotional bank account is empty. And those times are okay. Um, because what can happen at that point is we rest and we let the water build back up in the lake or the reservoir, or we wait for a couple weeks of paychecks to restore our bank account, or we take the months and months or years and years of reading and studying tarot, and then we let it internalize and sort of grow in the internal garden. I'm using a lot of clumsy metaphors today, but like learning or studying or exploring is not that different from my reservoir analogy. But it's also not all that different from a garden. And if we think of the cycle of a garden, winter comes and the garden dies, and then spring comes along and we fertilize that earth. But in winter and spring, you know what I mean, there's still things happening in the earth. So this is a very long-winded way of getting to my central point, which is that if you're going through a dry time, if you're going through a fallow period, if you're going through a time where the reservoir is empty, those are okay times. And the thing that's important is not to beat ourselves up, get angry or get frustrated, to let doubt creep in, or any number of negative things, and just accept it as a time where things are happening inside, and they are. I learned more about tarot. Well, I can't say it that way. I discovered that I knew more about tarot after taking a couple years away from it, than I did in all the years I was like cramming every piece of information I could get my hands on. And it was because, and this is how I tend to exist in the world, I sort of consume as much as I can until I sort of fill up or there's nothing left to be consumed. And then I feel like empty, and I have to move on to fill myself up with something else. But in the interim, while I'm taking time away from the thing that I'm passionate about, the cup is refilling, the reservoir is refilling, and the seeds are taking growth, and all the stuff I learned from the past is sort of fertilizing the ground for the future. And so the whole point of this, as I ramble, is to think about those fallow times, to think about those dry times as you're studying anything. And again, remember, I've talked about this before. I have, adult learning theory background too. So this is just about learning in general, but about anything we care about, is to enjoy those times in a different way, and to do something else with them. Learn something new, take a break, walk, try not to think about it, or do what you do. Take the pressure off the muscle, so to speak, let it heal, let the ground fertilize, and then when you come back, you'll likely discover that you're better than you were when you started out at the beginning of that cycle. And that you're better than you were when you started feeling this fallow period. And I'm speaking from experience. I've seen this in life, but I've also experienced it in my own life in almost everything that I care about. Having allowed myself time to refill the vessel or to refill the reservoir, at the end of that refill period, the love returns, the interest returns, and I'm better than I was, and there's more to learn. You know what I mean? New things have come out, new books have been written, new videos have been made. All of that stuff starts to spark my interest again, and I get excited, and I get into the cycle of sort of consuming and exploring and expanding. So this is, this is just kind of, if I had a blog, which I think about doing sometimes, but I feel like blogs, people don't read them because they don't have time, and there aren't a lot of blogs that I read, honestly. So this is kind of like a spoken blog, and if it were written, it probably would have been more articulate. But this is just general thinking about how dry times, fallow times are good for us, and they restore our love and our interest in something. And if we give ourselves permission to experience those times, we come back better and stronger and, more skilled than we started out. So if you find yourself in that space, don't fight it and don't beat yourself up for it. Use it. Let it be, and let it deepen your experience, and then come back when the time is right, and you'll find out that everything you've been consuming has helped you grow and deepen your practice and experience. So that is that. Those are my thoughts on that. So I wanted to share that because I thought it might be interesting. I think sometimes we need permission to feel the way we feel. So sometimes I need that, and sometimes I want to provide that for others. So those are my thoughts there. I hope this is interesting, and I hope that it proves useful for someone out there. And I hope you're well. Have a good week.